was silent, not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew they wouldn't listen. Because I was watching. Because I was calculating. Because silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. But they mistook it. They thought my quiet meant I had no fight left. They assumed I was done, that I was broken, that I'd accepted the disrespect. And in that misjudgment, they gave me every reason to rise. See, people get comfortable when you stop reacting. They think your stillness means surrender. But my silence, it was pressure, building, waiting. I didn't speak because I knew nothing I said would matter to them. I didn't shout because my actions were already louder. And now that I've moved, they're scrambling to make sense of it. They weren't ready for this version of me. The one that doesn't explain, doesn't flinch, doesn't return calls. The one that turned every ignored moment into a reason to evolve. Let them be confused. Let them whisper. Let them regret ever thinking I'd stay quiet forever. Because the moment I went silent, they thought silence meant submission. But what they didn't realize was, I wasn't avoiding conflict. I was becoming the storm behind it. I watched how they moved, heard every lie dressed as concern, felt every shift in energy when I walked into the room. And I stayed quiet, not because I was afraid, because I was aware. Silence teaches you things noise never could. You start seeing the truth in actions. Start hearing the weight behind the words not said. Start understanding that not everyone deserves a response. And while they laughed, while they underestimated, I was learning who they really were. They assumed my silence was softness, but in reality, it was survival. A way to keep my peace while they exposed themselves. Now, they're uncomfortable. Not because I said anything, but because I didn't. They want access again. They want to explain. They want to fix what they broke. But I don't open doors that were slammed shut on me. My silence wasn't weakness. It was the beginning of the version of me they can't manipulate anymore. They didn't hear me speak, so they thought I had nothing to say. But silence isn't emptiness. It's depth. And I was drowning in every word I chose not to speak. I wasn't ignoring them. I was watching them unmask themselves. The real ones always reveal themselves in your quiet. They push further when you stop pushing back. They test your limits when you go still. And they tested mine. Until I stopped playing the game. Until I stopped showing up. Stopped defending. Stopped giving them the pieces they could twist into control. They didn't realize silence is a mirror. And I let them look in it long enough to see who they really are. Now they're desperate to rewrite the story, but it's already written. In every moment I didn't speak, and they kept going. They thought I was done, but I wasn't done. I was preparing. If you're still here, watching, listening, feeling this in your bones, subscribe and hit the bell. Because people like us don't stay quiet forever. We rise. And when we do, they finally understand what silence really meant. Now they feel it. Not in words, but in the space I left behind. The stillness that replaced the effort. The distance that replaced the explanations. They thought silence was my retreat, but it was my reset. I didn't walk away because I couldn't handle it. I walked away because I finally understood. You don't win wars by arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. You win by removing access, by cutting off the oxygen, by showing them what life looks like without your energy in their orbit. They called it cold, said I switched up, but I didn't switch. I snapped. I reached the moment where I couldn't unsee the truth, couldn't unknow the disrespect, couldn't keep pretending that loyalty still lived where betrayal already burned it down. So I went silent. In that silence, it changed everything. Because when someone you thought was weak stops speaking, you start listening. Now they replay the past, trying to figure out when they lost me. They didn't lose me all at once. They lost me every time they misread my silence as forgiveness. They're nervous now, not because I said something, but because I didn't. They're used to people snapping, breaking, yelling. That's what they expect when they push too far. But I didn't give them that. I gave them silence. And silence is something they can't defend against. See, when you finally stop speaking, they have to sit with what they did. No distractions, no arguments, just the echo of their own actions bouncing off the walls you walked away from. I don't need to explain what hurt me. I don't need to tell them why I left, because people always know what they did. They just hope you're too broken to hold them accountable. But I wasn't broken. I was awakening. And now, I rise without the need for closure, without the urge to be understood, without the hope they'll change. They lost the right to hear from me when they ignored what I wasn't saying the first time. Let them sit in confusion. Let them wonder when I stopped caring. Because that's the final shift. When you stop trying to be heard and start becoming impossible to ignore. They thought silence meant they won, that I bowed out, that I gave up. But silence isn't surrender, it's evolution. I stopped speaking because I outgrew the need to explain myself to people who made a habit of misunderstanding me. I didn't leave because I was weak. I left because staying meant shrinking, and I'm done being small. Now I walk differently, talk less, feel deeper, move cleaner, and that silence they used to mock, it's now the loudest part of me. Let them feel the absence. Let them live with the version of me they'll never access again. Because when I went silent, I didn't lose my voice. I reclaimed it. This isn't a warning. This is a statement. I was silent. You mistook that. Now tell me, what did your silence teach the people who pushed you too far? Drop it in the comments. Let your experience speak for you. And when you're ready to keep rising, watch next. Your silence after the disrespect is killing them. Or show them no reaction. Their power ends where your silence begins. They never expected the quiet ones to be the ones who end the story.